In a tunnel packed with cars, one man risks everything to chase a yellow sports car. He locks his eyes on the driver, consumed by a single thought. No matter what it takes, I'll drag you down to hell. That man is Tae-jun, a hardworking delivery rider who rarely takes a break. One night, while chatting with a coworker, a spoiled rich girl suddenly grabs their food and throws it on the ground simply because his coworker accidentally bumped into her. Looking at the ruined order, Tae-jun is furious. He jumps onto his motorcycle and speeds after her. Knowing every street like the back of his hand, he quickly catches up to the sports car and blocks its path. Without hesitation, he throws the food back into the car and demands, "Pay for it!" The rich kids immediately realize they picked a fight with the wrong person and nervously hand over the money. After settling the situation, Tae-jun stops by a school to check on his younger brother, Tae-jin. The two brothers have relied on each other ever since their mother passed away. Tae-jun tells him that he will visit their mother's memorial alone tomorrow because Tae-jin needs to focus on his upcoming exam. After work, Tae-jun heads home, where he and his friends decorate the garden. It turns out he and his girlfriend Suji are preparing to open a flower shop together. To make their dream come true, he took out a large bank loan. That is why he works tirelessly every single day. Fortunately, everything seems to be going well. The next morning, Tae-jun wakes up early to prepare breakfast for Suji. After cleaning up the mess from the previous night, he heads out for another busy day of deliveries. He finishes one delivery just as the elevator doors close. In a hurry, he takes the stairs and unexpectedly notices a sick tree on the landing. He leaves a note explaining how to care for it before continuing on his way. During another delivery, he sees an elderly woman struggling with a heavy suitcase. Without thinking twice, he helps carry it up the hill. Later that night, while eating dinner, he hears a phone ringing nearby. When he answers it, he realizes it belongs to someone who accidentally dropped it. He plans to leave it at a nearby convenience store, but the woman on the other end begs him to deliver it personally. She even offers him a reward of 300,000 won. Hoping to earn some extra money, Tae-jun goes to the location she provides. However, he finds nothing except an empty, deserted tunnel. The woman calls again and says it is too late to meet a stranger. Instead, she asks him to leave the phone inside a public call box in the tunnel. Although confused, Tae-jun does exactly as she asks. As he walks away, a speeding truck narrowly misses him. The following day, while taking care of plants as usual, police officers suddenly storm in and arrest him on charges of rape and murder. A young woman had recently been brutally murdered and dismembered. For reasons he cannot understand, the police are convinced that Tae-jun is the killer. Shocked and furious, he insists that he has never even met the victim. However, the officers refuse to listen and keep reminding him how serious the case is. Soon his friends arrive at the police station with devastating news. His personal information has already been leaked online. Even the walls of his flower shop have been covered with graffiti, calling him a murderer and wishing for his death. When Suji arrives at the station, Tae-jun breaks down and desperately tells her that he is innocent. He repeatedly insists that he never killed anyone. Suji believes in him and promises to do everything she can to clear his name. She immediately hires a lawyer. The lawyer explains that proving Tae-jun's alibi is now their highest priority. Fortunately, every delivery Tae-jun completes is digitally recorded. With the help of his friends and family, they successfully reconstruct his movements over the previous 2 days. Seeing the detailed timeline, the lawyer becomes confident that they have a strong defense. But no one expects the case to take a shocking turn. Although Tae-jun's GPS records perfectly match the timeline presented by the defense, the prosecution raises 3 major points. First, they reveal that on the day of the murder, Tae-jun made a delivery to the victim's apartment. They also point out that he spent more time inside the building than expected. Tae-jun explains that he stopped to leave care instructions for a sick tree, which delayed him by a few minutes. Second, the prosecutor questions why he was seen carrying a suitcase. Tae-jun says he was simply helping an elderly woman after finishing a delivery. However, the prosecutor reveals that the suitcase found near the crime scene looks exactly like the one he carried. A sense of dread washes over Tae-jun. Third, the prosecutor asks why he had the victim's phone. Security camera footage from a nearby convenience store is shown as evidence. Tae-jun quickly explains that he found the phone and was only trying to return it. The prosecutor responds by revealing that the tunnel where he left the phone is only a short distance from where the victim's body was discovered. Then comes the most devastating revelation of all. The victim's body contains Tae-jun's DNA. The prosecutor demands to know why he committed such a horrific crime. Tae-jun is completely stunned and repeatedly shouts, "I'm innocent!" To make matters worse, the prosecutor reveals one final detail. According to the investigation, no one has ever seen the tree Tae-jun claimed he stopped to care for. That evening, Suji visits him again with heartbreaking news. She tells him that their lawyer has decided to withdraw from the case. Just as Tae-jun begins to lose all hope, Suji suddenly asks to see his wrist. While looking through the crime scene photos, she noticed the couple's bracelet she had once given him. Tae-jun freezes. He cannot remember where his bracelet is. Unable to ignore the evidence any longer, Suji breaks down in tears. She can no longer convince herself to trust him and ends their relationship. In the end, Tae-jun is sentenced to life in prison. From that moment on, his world is swallowed by endless darkness. Just as he is about to give up on life, a public defender named Kim visits him. Kim says he learned about the case by chance and believes everything was carefully planned. To him, the entire investigation information feels like it followed a pre-written script. He asks Tae-jun to remember every detail and promises to help uncover the truth. His words give Tae-jun a small glimmer of hope. Tae-jun tells Kim that the bracelet found at the crime scene was not the one he was wearing. After thinking carefully, he remembers leaving his bracelet behind at his younger brother's dormitory. Kim's eyes light up. He believes this information could overturn the case and warns Tae-jun not to mention it to anyone else. Before Tae-jun can feel relieved, he is brutally beaten by other inmates. He silently endures the abuse and humiliation, believing that justice will eventually prevail, but reality deals him another devastating blow. Kim returns with tragic news. Tae-jun's younger brother left behind a suicide note and took his own life. The loss of his brother completely shatters him. As memories of their happy moments together flood his mind, Tae-jun cries until he can barely breathe. That night, he decides to end his own life so he can be with his brother again. In a dream, Tae-jun appears before him, crying and shouting, "Why did you give up? Stay away from me. Just live." Tae-jun suddenly wakes up and finds himself strapped to a hospital bed. Doctors rush in and sedate him. It is already the third time that month he has tried to harm himself. Consumed by grief and hopelessness, Tae-jun becomes emotionally empty. Although his friends continue visiting every month, he refuses to meet any of them. Not long afterward, prison guards escort him to the chapel for an Easter service. There, an altar server named Sik approaches him and offers him a piece of cake. Sik explains that he is also a prisoner and has spent the last 15 years behind bars. He says he understands exactly what Tae-jun is going through. Sik encourages him to see the rest of his life as a gift and to use it doing everything he once regretted never trying. Those words slowly bring Tae-jun's desire to live back to life. From that day forward, he follows a strict daily routine. Whenever he is not being bullied by other inmates, he spends every spare moment studying, exercising, learning new skills, and planting flowers in the prison yard. Sik also gives him a Bible and tells him to remain patient because his time will eventually come. As the days pass, tiny sprouts begin to grow in the flower beds. Tae-jun earns more certificates and becomes stronger both mentally and physically. 5 years pass within the prison walls. He transforms a barren corner of the prison into a beautiful green garden. Even the kind prison guard Yang admires his dedication and often asks him for advice about plants. Sik jokes that Tae-jun has become a real tree doctor. Before leaving, Sik gives Tae-jun his own bracelet and tells him, "Never change who you are, don't cry anymore." Tae-jun senses that something is different. A moment later, Sik quietly reveals that he is being released from prison that day. Holding back his tears, Tae-jun says goodbye to his only true friend. He bows deeply and shouts, "Thank you for everything." After Sik leaves, Tae-jun takes over his role as the chapel's altar server. One day, guard Yang brings a hopeless young prisoner to the chapel. Wanting to encourage him, Tae-jun hands him a Bible. However, the young man keeps insisting that he is innocent. He says that if he had never tried to return a stranger's lost phone, none of this would have happened. Hearing those words, Tae-jun freezes. The young man's story is almost identical to his own. He was also imprisoned after picking up someone else's phone. Even more shocking, they were both represented by the same public defender. That very day, the young man receives news that his mother has unexpectedly died. He refuses to believe it was suicide. Instead, he claims that the public defender is the real murderer. Those words shake Tae-jun to his core. He begins questioning everything about his own case. Maybe every tragedy had been carefully planned from the very beginning. The next day, the young prisoner is found dead in his cell after taking his own life. At that moment, Tae-jun becomes convinced that someone has been manipulating these cases all along. He contacts Kim and lies, claiming he has remembered an important new clue. When they meet, Tae-jun looks directly into Kim's eyes and asks, "Do I look like a cold-blooded killer or someone who was framed?" Kim immediately realizes that Tae-jun has no new evidence. With a smug smile, he finally admits the truth. The entire case was fabricated from the very beginning. The moment Tae-jun picked up that lost phone, the conspiracy had already been set in motion. Afterward, Tae-jun learns that his younger brother found the missing bracelet in his dormitory. Not long after, his brother sensed that something was terribly wrong and was murdered because of it. After hearing the truth, Tae-jun explodes with rage and shouts, "No matter what, I'll find a way to kill you." He returns the Bible to the prison chaplain and quietly pulls a hidden nail from beneath a chair. Then he looks up at the cross and makes a vow. From this moment on, blood will be repaid with blood. What he does not know is that the true mastermind is a young man named Johan. He specializes in solving problems for wealthy clients, even if it means arranging murders. In return, he forces his clients to purchase his sculptures at outrageously high prices. One day, while attending a business meeting, Johan receives a call from lawyer Kim. Something has gone wrong with their plan. Remaining completely calm, Johan immediately sends a professional assassin to eliminate the problem, acting as if everything is still under control. Meanwhile, another group of inmates corners Tae-jun. This time, however, he refuses to endure it silently. Within moments, he defeats them all and warns them never to challenge him again. The gang leader is Deok-soo, the most feared prisoner in the entire facility. Humiliated by someone he considered insignificant, Deok-soo decides to get rid of Tae-jun. Before he can act, the prison warden secretly meets with him and orders him to stay quiet for a while. The two are secretly working together. They make money by organizing illegal underground fights between inmates. However, a prisoner has recently died during one of those fights. If another incident occurs, the warden could be held responsible for negligence. For that reason, he orders Deok-soo to avoid causing any more trouble. Outside prison, Sik takes over his late father's repair shop. He struggles to earn enough money to survive. One day, the prison chaplain tells him that Tae-jun returned the Bible. Worried that something has happened, Sik immediately visits the prison. Fighting back tears, Tae-jun tells him that he was framed. He quietly adds that he is going to leave this prison. Sik warns him that escaping is almost impossible, but Tae-jun confidently says he already has a complete plan. He explains that he has no intention of climbing over the prison walls. Instead, he plans to walk straight out the front gate. While performing his cleaning duties, he secretly studies every detail of the prison. He memorizes the guards' shifts, key locations, food deliveries, schedules, and every weakness he can use. Deok-soo sends another inmate to get close to Tae-jun, intending to teach him a painful lesson. Instead, the inmate is completely defeated. Tae-jun realizes that Deok-soo is a threat that must be dealt with. He deliberately provokes Deok-soo by mentioning the incident involving his sister. Blinded by anger, Deok-soo grabs a food tray and attacks him. Tae-jun never fights back because this was part of his plan all along. As expected, Deok-soo is thrown into solitary confinement. With that obstacle removed, Tae-jun asks guard Yang for several sponges, pretending he needs them for gardening. He hides the sponges beneath flower pots and stores them inside the Block B warehouse. The following day, he attacks the inmate assigned to clean Block B and secretly takes his place. While cleaning, he slips into the warehouse and presses the Block B gate key into a sponge to create an impression. Later, he returns to the garden and pours white glue into the mold, creating a copy that can be used to duplicate the key. At the same time, the assassin enters the prison disguised as a doctor. He quietly identifies Tae-jun as his target. The pink liquid hidden in his pocket is a deadly poison prepared specifically for him. Later, the inmates line up to receive vaccinations. A guard asks Tae-jun to repair his car while he eats lunch. Using the opportunity, Tae-jun quickly makes 2 copies of the key. The guard returns earlier than expected and even brings him a hamburger. He carefully searches Tae-jun for anything suspicious. Fortunately, Tae-jun has already hidden the copied keys inside the burger bag. When he returns to his cell, another guard is waiting for him. An underground fight is scheduled for the following day. The guard has placed a large bet on Tae-jun. To make sure nothing happens to him before the fight, the guard orders another inmate to receive the vaccine in Tae-jun's place. When the day of the fight arrives, Tae-jun has only one goal. Today is the day he escapes. He defeats his opponent within moments and quietly slips away. However, the fake doctor suddenly appears outside his cell. The assassin realized the previous day that the wrong inmate had received the injection, so he deliberately stayed one more day. After confirming Tae-jun's identity, he secretly injects him with poison. He then sends a message to his boss. It will all be over in 30 minutes. Tae-jun has no idea that he has been poisoned. He remains completely focused on carrying out his escape plan. First, he pushes a nail into an electrical outlet. The resulting short circuit cuts power to Block B and disables the security cameras. While the guards rush to inspect the fuse box, Tae-jun slips into the control room. He steals an access card and heads to the storage area to change into civilian clothes. Using the stolen card, he unlocks every security gate along the route. Eventually, he reaches the ventilation shaft below. He had already studied this route in advance. It is the only path that allows him to avoid the guards completely. After removing his prison uniform, he crawls into the narrow air duct and slowly moves forward. Eventually, he reaches the ceiling above the visitation room, but the poison begins taking effect. Despite the unbearable pain, Tae-jun forces himself to keep moving. He makes his way into the service hall and quietly blends in with the crowd of visiting families. To create a distraction, he secretly cuts open an elderly woman's lunchbox, causing confusion all around him. While everyone is distracted, he calmly walks out through the prison's front entrance. However, he does not get very far. Moments later, he suddenly collapses. When Tae-jun regains consciousness, he finds himself in the prison infirmary. The doctor tells him that someone injected him with rat poison. Fortunately, the vitamin K supplements he had been taking helped neutralize the poison and saved his life. Meanwhile, guard Yang retraces Tae-jun's escape route. After seeing it with his own eyes, he can hardly believe what Tae-jun accomplished. He realizes the man is incredibly intelligent. Not long afterward, Yang visits Tae-jun. He tells him that someone inside the prison is trying to kill him and promises to keep him safe. At the same time, he warns Tae-jun never to attempt another escape. Taejun says very little. He only asks Yang to deliver a message to Sik. "Thank you for saving my life once again." It turns out the supplements that protected him had originally been given to him by Sik. Meanwhile, Deok-soo is finally released from solitary confinement. The first thing on his mind is revenge. He gathers his followers and heads straight for Taejun. Sensing danger, Taejun hides inside the infirmary. Soon after finishing his duties, Yang runs into the prison doctor. The doctor warns him that Taejun is in serious danger. Yang immediately gathers several guards and rushes toward the infirmary. However, the inmates block the entrance, preventing them from getting inside. Meanwhile, Deok-soo repeatedly stabs a blanket, believing Taejun is hiding underneath. Only then does he realize the bed is empty. Without warning, Taejun attacks from the shadows. Despite being heavily outnumbered, he defeats every one of Deok-soo's men with incredible fighting skills. Enraged, Deok-soo drives a knife into Taejun's abdomen. Even with a serious injury, Taejun continues fighting like a man possessed. He eventually forces Deok-soo to the ground. Instead of killing him, Taejun slices his ear as a final warning. By the time the guards finally enter the room, the fight is already over. As punishment, Taejun is sent back to solitary confinement. A few days later, he dreams of seeing his younger brother again. The overwhelming guilt fills his heart. He swears that the real mastermind will one day pay for everything. Late one night, Taejun and several other inmates are blindfolded and loaded into a secret prison transport vehicle. The entire operation has been arranged by Johan. Recently, Johan has grown bored with ordinary racing games. They no longer give him enough excitement. Wanting something more extreme, he contacts the prison warden through a middleman. He asks the warden to secretly transfer 12 dangerous inmates out of the prison. As payment, Johan offers 2 gold bars worth millions and promises 5 more after the job is complete. The warden hesitates. If anyone discovers the operation, his career will be over. Johan then casually mentions that the warden secretly invested public funds into cryptocurrency and was scammed. He promises to make the problem disappear. Hearing that, the warden immediately agrees. He hands out large bribes to every guard involved and orders them to cooperate. Under the cover of darkness, 12 inmates are secretly transported to a hidden location. By sunrise, they are wearing identical white uniforms with numbered tags. They find themselves standing inside an abandoned factory. From a platform above them, Johan enthusiastically announces, "Welcome to the land of opportunity." At that moment, Taejun still has no idea that this man is the true mastermind who destroyed his life. 5 years earlier, a wealthy heir named Dae Kang accidentally killed the young woman who was with him. Terrified, he immediately called his father, a powerful congressman. To protect both his son and his political career, the congressman contacted Johan and ordered him to erase the problem. Johan sent his team to the crime scene. Using advanced technology, they created a perfect 3-dimensional reconstruction of the entire area. Even from a remote location, Johan carefully analyzed every bloodstain and every fingerprint. Once he fully understood the scene, he accessed the nationwide surveillance network and reviewed everyone who had passed through the area. Eventually, he found an unfortunate target. It was Taejun, who had simply been making food deliveries nearby. After selecting him as the scapegoat, Johan's team began investigating every part of Taejun's life. They studied his daily routine, habits, and personal relationships. At the same time, another team secretly entered Taejun's home. They collected his fingerprints and anything else that could be used as evidence. Those fingerprints and footprints were later planted on items connected to the murder. The team even searched through Taejun's trash, collected biological samples, and used them to fabricate forensic evidence. When it came to framing an innocent person, Johan left nothing to chance. After discovering that Taejun's bracelet was missing, he ordered an identical copy to be made and planted at the crime scene. Later, he learned that the real bracelet had been left in Taejun's younger brother's dormitory. To erase the evidence, he sent an assassin to kill Taejun. Even the elderly woman with the suitcase and the sick tree in the apartment building were carefully planned parts of Johan's scheme. He is both a brilliant strategist and a ruthless psychopath. Now he begins an entirely new deadly game. To make sure the prisoners have enough energy to compete, he serves them a generous meal. Everyone eats without suspicion except Taejun. Instead, he quietly sits alone in a corner, remaining alert. After dinner, the prisoners are separated and taken to different numbered rooms. Late that night, Taejun quietly sneaks out, hoping to find a way to escape. However, the entire factory is heavily guarded by armed mercenaries. He carefully avoids their patrols, but eventually he is caught. Just then, Johan appears and politely offers to take him back to his room. Taejun refuses to get into the vehicle and demands to know why they have all been brought there. Johan simply smiles and hints that a special competition will begin very soon. After returning to the dormitory area, Taejun finds Deok-soo and his gang still eating in the lounge. Deok-soo mocks him once again and promises to settle the score. Just as another fight is about to break out, the mercenaries fire several warning shots into the air. Both sides are forced to back away. At dawn, loud music echoes through the factory, waking all the prisoners. They change into white uniforms and gather in an open field. One prisoner asks where they are. Johan calmly only replies, "This is a racetrack." He explains that each prisoner will receive a randomly assigned vehicle and compete in a race. Other than that, there are no rules. One prisoner refuses to participate. Without hesitation, Johan pulls out a gun and shoots him on the spot. The remaining prisoners fall completely silent. No one dares to resist anymore. A few moments later, a cargo truck slowly drives into the arena. Johan announces that it contains 5 billion won in cash. The last survivor will take home the entire prize. He also tells everyone that they are free to meet with him if they have any questions. The prisoners are then escorted to separate garages to collect their assigned vehicles. Most of them are excited and immediately begin inspecting and modifying their cars. Only Deok-soo looks disappointed because he receives the worst vehicle. Meanwhile, Johan welcomes two special guests. One of them is Dae Kang, the congressman's son. Johan explains that this is not just a race. It is a brutal survival game. His goal is to turn it into a worldwide underground business where prisoners fight for their lives while wealthy people place bets for entertainment. These two wealthy heirs will become the first investors in the project. Dae Kang asks whether the winner will actually receive the prize money. Johan nods. Then he coldly adds, "The winner may claim the money, but no one will leave this place alive." Soon, prisoner number 5, Jay, requests a private meeting with Johan. He respectfully offers to build a long-term partnership and promises to become a valuable asset. Johan simply laughs. He has no interest in trusting someone with a long history of fraud. Next, Deok-soo asks for a meeting. Unlike the others, he is not interested in the prize money. He only wants permission to kill Tae-jun during the race. Johan bursts into laughter. He reminds him that there are no rules. Anyone can do whatever they want. Because of that, many prisoners begin forming temporary alliances. Prisoner number 10, Yang, approaches Tae-jun and suggests they work together. Knowing that Tae-jun has a mechanic's license, he offers to split the prize money if they win. That night, Tae-jun upgrades and reinforces Yang's high-performance sports car. Suddenly, Jay and several other prisoners arrive, hoping to steal the vehicle. Yang blocks the entrance with everything he has, buying Tae-jun enough time to finish. The moment the door is forced open, Tae-jun starts the engine and speeds away. Deok-soo witnesses the escape and immediately gives chase. His plan is to kill Tae-jun and steal the car. Just as Deok-soo accelerates to ram him, Jay suddenly cuts in and blocks his path. The two gangs are about to clash when armed mercenaries rush in and stop the fight. During the chaos, Yang's car is severely damaged and eventually explodes. While looking around the area, Tae-jun notices a hidden passage that appears to lead outside the factory. The following day, he requests a meeting with Johan. His real purpose is to study the surrounding area more carefully. Johan asks what he wants. Tae-jun simply requests a box of vitamins, claiming they could save the dying tree nearby. Johan scoffs at the request and orders his men to throw the tree away. Wanting to make the competition even more entertaining, Johan secretly agrees to help Jay. He hints that a special gift has been placed inside Jay's car. Before long, the race is ready to begin. One by one, the prisoners drive their vehicles into the arena. Johan once again reminds them that there are no rules. If they want to survive, they must do whatever it takes. As soon as the red light turns on, the deadly race officially begins. One driver activates a flamethrower attached to his vehicle and quickly takes the lead. Moments later, his car catches fire and explodes, killing him instantly. Watching the explosion, Dae Kang applauds with excitement. As the race grows more intense, Johan suddenly loses focus. He stares at Tae-jun's file and feels a strange sense of familiarity. The moment he notices the reference to the tree, everything comes back to him. He realizes that Tae-jun is the innocent delivery rider he personally selected as the scapegoat 5 years earlier. Johan immediately orders Jay to intercept car number 9 because it belongs to Tae-jun. Deok-soo joins the attack and together they force the vehicle to stop. To everyone's surprise, Yang is the one sitting behind the wheel. Johan immediately deploys surveillance drones to search the area. Just then, Tae-jun suddenly appears from another direction, riding a motorcycle. Realizing his plan has failed, Johan orders Jay to open the gift hidden inside his car. It is a loaded handgun. Tae-jun hides in a safe location and straps a gas tank to the back of his motorcycle. Jay smashes the window of his vehicle and opens fire. Tae-jun skillfully dodges the bullets and destroys Jay's wheel, causing the car to flip over. Watching the chaos unfold, Johan becomes even more excited. He immediately changes the rules. Anyone who captures or kills Tae-jun will receive double the prize money. Just as Tae-jun tries to escape, Deok-soo blocks his path. The two engage in a brutal fistfight. Deok-soo is no match for Tae-jun and is quickly overpowered. Furious, Johan grabs a sniper rifle and fires several shots. Tae-jun quickly hides behind a nearby car for cover. The moment Johan reloads, Tae-jun jumps onto his motorcycle and races toward the passage he discovered the previous night. Only then does Johan realize that Tae-jun intends to escape using the uphill road. Tae-jun detonates the gas tank, blowing apart the barricade blocking the exit. He accelerates at full speed and launches his motorcycle into the air. Johan carefully takes aim and pulls the trigger. Miraculously, Tae-jun avoids the fatal shot and crashes onto a riverbank below. Using the darkness to hide himself, he changes into a fisherman's clothes and quietly escapes. Dragging his injured body, he barely reaches Sik's repair shop before collapsing. Sik quickly carries him inside and treats his wounds. Meanwhile, Johan is furious. The situation is slipping beyond his control. To cover up the incident, he forces the prison warden to announce that the inmates inmates died in a gas explosion during volunteer work. He also forbids the authorities from launching a public search for Tae-jun. Johan wants to hunt him down personally because that makes the game far more entertaining. Not long afterward, Tae-jun wakes from a terrifying nightmare. Sik notices something is troubling him, but chooses not to ask questions. Instead, he simply tells him to rest. The following morning, Tae-jun visits the memorial for his mother and younger brother. Standing before them, his determination for revenge grows even stronger. He decides to target lawyer Kim first, believing he holds the key to exposing the conspiracy. After tracking him down, Tae-jun brutally beats him and demands the truth. He asks who is really behind everything. Terrified, Kim replies, "If I tell you, they'll kill me." While searching through Kim's documents, Tae-jun discovers a file on a woman named So-hyun Jang. With no way out, Kim finally confesses. He reveals that the woman has been selected as the next scapegoat. Whenever one of their wealthy clients commits murder, they choose an innocent person to take the blame. To create convincing evidence, they secretly monitor the chosen victim for months. They record every detail of that person's daily life. At that moment, the assassin suddenly breaks into the building. A fierce fight immediately breaks out. Tae-jun instantly recognizes him as the fake doctor who poisoned him inside the prison. Consumed by rage, he quickly knocks the assassin unconscious. Kim tries to attack Tae-jun from behind, but is easily defeated. In a panic, Kim blurts out another horrifying truth. He admits that the assassin was the one who murdered Tae-jun's younger brother. Seconds later, the assassin throws a bomb into the room and braces himself behind the door. Tae-jun grabs the bag of documents and dives through a window just before the explosion. Soon afterward, Johan learns about everything that happened. Fed up with the assassin's repeated failures, he finally loses his patience. Without hesitation, Johan kills him himself. He even leaves behind a symbolic payment, mocking it as a retirement gift. To Johan, people are nothing more than disposable tools. If one tool becomes useless, he simply replaces it. Meanwhile, after hearing Kim's confession, Sik hugs Tae-jun tightly. He feels deeply sorry for everything Tae-jun has suffered. Sik promises to help him however he can. Together, they begin planning to save the next innocent victim, Ms. So. Tae-jun believes the people monitoring her must be hiding somewhere nearby. His suspicion is correct. Using his own advanced surveillance network, Johan watches Ms. So without leaving a single blind spot. Ms. So owns a small barbershop. She has been chosen because the murder weapon resembles a pair of hairdressing scissors. To stop Johan's plan, Tae-jun builds several surveillance devices and secretly installs them around the barbershop. He then spends hours watching the live camera feeds. One afternoon, a young woman walks into Sik's repair shop and casually takes some hidden cash. Thinking she is a thief, Tae-jun immediately tackles her. Sik rushes over and explains that she is actually his daughter, Yoon-bi. Naturally rebellious, Yoon-bi demands rent from Tae-jun. As soon as he hands over the money, she punches him hard and coldly says, "Now we're even." Tae-jun quietly mutters that she is definitely an unusual person. After several days of surveillance, Tae-jun finally identifies several suspicious individuals. He notices the same cars and the same people repeatedly appearing near Miss So's barbershop at the exact same times every day. He also remembers one important clue from his own case. Although he had never met the murder victim, the GPS data from her phone matched his movements perfectly. At that moment, he notices a motorcycle following Ms. So almost 24 hours a day. Everything suddenly becomes clear. Tae-jun immediately rushes to the barbershop. However, by the time he arrives, Ms. So has already left. Ms. So's daughter tells Tae-jun that her mother went to return a lost phone. She also points him toward the address her mother left behind. At the meeting place, Ms. So returns the phone to its owner. Just then, Tae-jun appears disguised as a robber and snatches the phone away. His unexpected action completely disrupts the criminal organization's plan. Johan immediately realizes that Tae-jun has become a serious threat. He contacts Gu, a suspended police officer who was previously caught accepting bribes. Johan orders him to find Tae-jun. In return, he promises to clear Gu's criminal charges and even help him earn a promotion. Gu first visits the prison to gather information. There, he learns that Sik is the person closest to Tae-jun. He then goes to Sik's repair shop and casually mentions that Tae-jun has escaped from prison. Sik tries to remain calm. However, Gu notices his unusual reaction and becomes suspicious. He insists on searching one particular room. Fortunately, Yoon-bi is changing clothes inside. She angrily scolds the officers for invading her privacy and forces them to leave the house. Later, Tae-jun returns to the repair shop and learns that the police were there. Not wanting to put anyone else in danger, he decides to leave. However, Sik stops him. He believes the safest place is where no one would think to look. That night, Tae-jun calls the owner of the lost phone. He pretends to be the person who found it and asks for a reward. Believing she is dealing with an ordinary thief, the woman agrees. Late that night, she arrives at the designated location carrying the money. Tae-jun instructs her to hand the cash to a delivery rider. He then tells her to collect the phone from a locker inside a nearby building. As soon as she leaves, Tae-jun secretly follows her. She eventually leads him to a hidden warehouse. Disguised as a worker, Tae-jun quietly sneaks inside. There, he discovers people collecting fingerprints, hair samples, and other personal evidence from everyday objects. He secretly records everything with his phone, but he suddenly gets a call from Sik. Just moments earlier, he had spotted a suspicious person entering the barbershop. His cover is exposed, but after fighting Fighting his way out, he manages to escape. Meanwhile, Ms. So senses that something is wrong. She tries to protect her daughter, but is quickly overpowered. At the critical moment, Tae-jun arrives and confronts a female assassin. A fierce fight breaks out between them. Neither side can gain the advantage. Suddenly, police sirens echo through the area. The assassin immediately escapes. It turns out Sik had already called the police. Before the officers arrive, Tae-jun successfully rescues Miss So and her daughter. Elsewhere, Johan watches the entire incident through his surveillance system. Instead of getting angry, he laughs. To him, the situation has become even more entertaining. Just then, the congressman and his son arrive without warning. They criticize Johan for failing to control the situation and treat him like a servant. The congressman warns him to resolve everything within the week. Otherwise, their next meeting will not be so friendly. After they leave, Johan vents his frustration to his assistant. He says he gave them the opportunity of a lifetime, yet they still dare to threaten him. He decides it is time to bring everything to an end. Moments later, Dae-kang insults him once again. Johan immediately changes his mind. He decides to prepare a special surprise for Dae-kang instead. Meanwhile, Tae-jun explains the entire conspiracy to Ms. So. Yoonbi happens to overhear everything. She finally realizes that Tae-jun is a kind and innocent man. To keep Ms. So and her daughter safe, Tae-jun asks Yoonbi to let them stay at her home for a while. The more Yoonbi learns about him, the more curious she becomes. After repeatedly questioning him, Tae-jun finally reveals how he was framed for murder. That night, Yoonbi cannot sleep. She feels nothing but sympathy for everything he has endured. For the first time in a long while, she calls her father and says, "If anything happens, call this number." Sik is overjoyed because their strained relationship has finally begun to heal. Back at the repair shop, everyone watches the news on television. The report announces that the supposed murderer is dead. Hearing this, Tae-jun suddenly realizes there must be more than one scapegoat involved in the conspiracy. Filled with anger, he rushes back to the secret warehouse. However, he discovers that every worker has already been executed. Johan never leaves behind loose ends. Suddenly, a conveyor belt begins moving. Something falls onto the floor. As Tae-jun walks closer, he is horrified to discover a severed head. It belongs to the assassin who once disguised himself as a prison doctor. Nearby, he finds a stack of case files along with a letter addressed to him.
The bag is filled with cash, almost as if Johan is mocking him.
Moments later, a giant screen lights up. A video claims that Dae-kang is the mastermind behind all the murders. Tae-jun is consumed by rage. Without realizing it, he has already been pulled into another deadly game. To make the situation even more chaotic, Johan hacks into Dae-kang's social media accounts. He changes all of the private posts to public and deliberately leaves clues for Tae-jun. From those posts, Tae-jun discovers that Dae-kang is currently in Busan. Without hesitation, he sets out to take revenge. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, the police continue searching for Tae-jun. At that moment, Tae-jun personally calls guard Yang. He tells him that he will capture the real criminal himself and finally clear his name. Yang listens carefully. In the background, he hears an announcement for Busan Station. Realizing where Tae-jun is headed, Yang immediately leaves for Busan. At the same time, Sik is unable to contact Tae-jun. He begins to fear that something terrible is about to happen. He finally relaxes after confirming with the prison that Tae-jun has not been captured. Suddenly, Yoonbi remembers that her father once gave Tae-jun a phone. They pretend the phone has been lost and ask the service staff to locate it. The tracking results reveal that Tae-jun is in Busan. At the same time, Johan visits a temple to attend a memorial service marking the 10th anniversary of his parents' deaths. His uncle, who is a psychiatrist, believes Johan still carries deep emotional scars from losing his parents. Johan pretends to be grief-stricken. However, the moment his uncle looks away, a sinister smile appears on his face. Meanwhile, his aunt is more interested in settling the enormous inheritance left behind by his parents. Johan obediently lets her handle everything, while secretly signaling the blind nanny to deal with the situation. Moments later, the nanny arrives with the female assassin. Together, they eliminate every relative present. Even while dying, the aunt continues insulting the nanny, calling her a filthy woman. At that moment, the shocking truth is revealed. The nanny is actually Johan's biological mother. She even recalls with disturbing excitement how Johan once poured mercury into her eyes to stop her from leaving him, leaving her permanently blind. Yet she believes it was simply her son's twisted way of expressing love. She remains completely devoted to him. Later that day, Tae-jun finally tracks down Dae-kang, who is hosting a luxurious yacht party. Tae-jun approaches him while secretly activating a voice recorder. His goal is to lure Dae-kang into confessing. Dae-kang immediately recognizes Tae-jun as the man who was framed in his place. Even so, he remains arrogant and completely remorseless. Instead, he orders his bodyguards to kill Tae-jun. Tae-jun fights back. However, the guard's leader is far too skilled and defeats him within moments. Dae-kang then calls Johan. He claims that Tae-jun has been captured. He also accuses Johan of deliberately leaking his location and demands his money back. Johan calmly agrees on the surface. Privately, however, he decides that all of them have become disposable. Meanwhile, Tae-jun is tied up and locked inside the yacht's cabin. When Sik and Yoonbi arrive at the harbor, they find the area surrounded by police officers. Sensing that time is running out, Yoonbi separates from her father to search for Tae-jun. At the same time, Gu and Guard Yang are also desperately searching for him. Soon afterward, Dae-kang learns that the police are close closing in. He rushes to the cabin, only to discover that Tae-jun has disappeared. Earlier, Sik had sensed something suspicious about the yacht. He secretly boarded it just in time to rescue Tae-jun. Unfortunately, Guard Yang spots them immediately afterward. He urges Sik to stay out of the situation and promises to help Tae-jun through legal means. Before they can escape, Gu suddenly appears and blocks their path. Just as he believes he has cornered them, Yunbi attacks him from behind. She even sprays Guard Yang with a fire extinguisher to create an opening. The three of them finally escape and take shelter at Yunbi's friend's house. Completely exhausted, Tae-jun falls into a deep sleep. As Yunbi watches him sleeping peacefully, she becomes even more convinced that he is not the criminal everyone believes him to be. The next morning, Tae-jun repeatedly listens to the recording from the previous night, hoping to discover an important clue. Meanwhile, Guard Yang follows the information Tae-jun secretly shared with him. He retrieves the files related to Dae Kang from a station locker. Elsewhere, Dae Kang reviews the security footage. He concludes that Johan must have secretly arranged Tae-jun's escape after refusing to refund his money. Johan has no interest in arguing with him. Instead, he realizes that someone has been quietly helping Tae-jun all along. Not long afterward, Johan visits the congressman. He informs him that his son was attacked by the escaped scapegoat. Johan offers to assign another security team and promises to eliminate the problem once and for all. The congressman simply smirks. He says he has countless ways to erase an inconvenient person. Cleaning up the mess, however, is Johan's responsibility. The insult pushes Johan to the edge of his patience. Before he can react, the congressman sends several assassins to surround his mansion. Johan lets out a quiet sigh. Then he draws a katana and single-handedly defeats every assassin. Later, while standing on a rooftop, Sik finally reveals the secret he has hidden for years. Long ago, during a heated argument with his wife, he threw a lit cigarette into the house in anger. The cigarette accidentally started a fire. Terrified, he was unable to go back inside to save her. The police eventually ruled the incident as intentional murder. Since that day, Yunbi has hated him. After hearing the truth, Tae-jun is overwhelmed with mixed emotions. To him, Sik's willingness to risk everything for an innocent man feels like a blessing. Meanwhile, Johan begins investigating Sik. He cannot understand why this father and daughter are risking their lives to protect a complete stranger. Eventually, he decides to deal with them personally. Determined to capture Tae-jun, Dae Kang gathers even more hired thugs. He even posts a public challenge on social media, daring Tae-jun to meet him at 9:00 p.m. After seeing the message, Tae-jun modifies a power drill into a pneumatic nail gun. He prepares himself for revenge. Just then, Yunbi calls him downstairs for breakfast. Her best friend playfully teases her, asking if she has started falling for Tae-jun. Yunbi refuses to answer the question and quickly rides her motorcycle to a nearby convenience store. By coincidence, Gu is also there searching for Tae-jun. To avoid being recognized, Yunbi lowers her cap and quietly walks away. However, Gu notices the tattoo on her back and realizes she is Sik's daughter. He immediately chases after her. Fortunately, Yunbi is an excellent rider and manages to lose him. Once Sik learns that the police are closing in, he drives away to draw their attention. Taking advantage of the distraction, Tae-jun jumps from the rooftop and escapes on the motorcycle Yunbi prepared for him. Not long afterward, Gu realizes he has been tricked. He is furious, but there is nothing he can do. Later, Yunbi returns home and finds her best friend unconscious on the floor. A moment later, Johan steps out of the shadows. He calmly explains that the girl only lost consciousness for a short time. Realizing that Johan has come with dangerous intentions, Yunbi confronts him. However, neither she nor Sik is capable of standing against him. Although Johan does not get the answers he was looking for, he decides it no longer matters. As night falls, Tae-jun arrives at the location Dae Kang chose for their meeting. He demands that Dae Kang admit his crimes and apologize. Instead, Dae Kang remains arrogant. He mocks Tae-jun and boldly declares that tonight will be his last night alive. Filled with rage, Tae-jun grabs a weapon and begins taking down Dae Kang's men one after another. Only one fighter with long hair proves to be a serious challenge. The two exchange powerful blows in a brutal fight. Using anything nearby as a weapon, Tae-jun finally finds an opening and knocks the man unconscious with a shovel. Meanwhile, Dae Kang anxiously waits for news from his men. To his shock, Tae-jun suddenly emerges alive. Dae Kang immediately jumps into his car and speeds away. Without hesitation, Tae-jun starts his motorcycle and chases after him. Inside a crowded tunnel, Tae-jun skillfully weaves through heavy traffic while avoiding bullets fired by Dae Kang's bodyguards. Dae Kang attempts to ram him head-on. Tae-jun rides along the tunnel wall to avoid the collision and fires several shots in return. During the chaos, he leaps into the thug's vehicle and defeats everyone inside. He then takes control of the driver's seat and continues chasing Dae Kang. Consumed by anger, Dae Kang keeps firing his weapon. In the middle of the intense chase, a large white truck suddenly crashes into Dae Kang's car. Tae-jun drags the badly injured Dae Kang out of the wreckage. He turns on the voice recorder in his phone and demands a confession. Even at death's door, Dae Kang refuses to show any remorse. At that moment, his phone begins to ring. The caller is Johan. When Tae-jun answers the call, he finally comes face to face with the true mastermind behind everything. Johan praises Tae-jun for surviving this long. He even offers him 5 billion won to join his side and promises to restore his identity. Tae-jun rejects the offer without hesitation. situation. Johan did not just destroy his life, he also took away his loved ones and caused his younger brother's death. The only thing Tae-jun wants now is to bring Johan down and make him pay for every crime he has committed. After ending the call with Tae-jun, Johan heads to the congressman's mansion. There, he brutally murders both the congressman and his mistress. As the congressman lies dying, Johan calmly reveals a horrifying secret. When he was only 16 years old, he murdered his own parents because they planned to donate their fortune to a temple. He then framed a serial killer for the crime. That was the moment he realized how easily innocent people could be used as scapegoats. With those words, Johan ends the congressman's life. Soon afterward, his cleanup team arrives and removes every trace of the murders. The following day, Johan secretly visits Sik's repair shop. Inside, he finds a photograph of Sik and Yoonbi together. He burns the picture, curious to see how Tae-jun will respond next. Meanwhile, Sik and Tae-jun arrange to meet in Seoul. Before Sik can leave, the police suddenly arrive and arrest him for the murder of the congressman. Just as they once did with Tae-jun, the officers present a large amount of fabricated evidence. They claim to have found threatening letters, the victim's DNA, and other incriminating items inside Sik's home. To make matters even worse, Gu threatens to arrest Yoonbi as well, accusing her of helping Sik commit the crime. Hearing this, Sik finally loses his temper. He warns them that if they drag his daughter into the case, he will never forgive them. At the train station, Tae-jun sees the news about Sik's arrest. He immediately realizes that Johan is behind everything. He rushes back to the repair shop only to find a hidden camera placed high above. It is obvious that Johan installed it there just to provoke him. Tae-jun destroys the camera and goes to comfort a devastated Yoonbi. She cannot understand why her father is taking the blame for everything. She wonders why he refuses to fight back this time. The thought of him returning to prison breaks her heart and she begins crying. Tae-jun blames himself for what happened. He promises that he will end this once and for all. He contacts Johan and demands to know what he wants. Johan tells him to return to the same tunnel as before and open the phone booth. Inside, Tae-jun finds the murder weapon used to kill the congressman along with a blank check. Johan gives him two choices. Either he turns himself in with the knife and earns 6 years of freedom afterward, or he accepts the money and starts working for him. Tae-jun asks why Johan is doing all of this. Johan simply answers that he does it because it entertains him. Facing someone with no sense of humanity, Tae-jun feels completely hopeless. Meanwhile, inside the detention center, Sik is also losing hope. His thoughts keep returning to memories of his daughter. Years earlier, while Sik was in prison, Yoonbi visited him regularly. Every time she came, she had bruises on her face. She told him that children at school kept insulting her because her father was a prisoner. Wanting to protect her from the pain, Sik said the cruelest thing he could. "I'm not your father anymore, never come back." After being released, Sik believed Yoonbi hated him, but despite her harsh attitude, she still allowed him to live with her. One day, Sik overheard Yoonbi talking with her best friend. That was when he realized she had actually missed him all those years. Now, while watching a small ant struggle on the ground, Sik feels completely powerless. The next day, Yoonbi visits her father to make sure he is okay.
Sik tells her not to worry.
He warns her that whatever happens in the future, she must stay away from the situation. Yoonbi does not understand what he means. That is until the news suddenly reports that Sik has confessed. However, Yang has known Sik for years. He immediately realizes that Sik is only lying to protect his daughter. He confronts Gu and tells him to stop this madness, but Gu does not care. He reminds Yang that he is only a prison guard and has no right to interfere. Then something completely unexpected happens. Tae-jun walks into the police station carrying the murder weapon. He turns himself in. Sik is immediately released. Johan cannot understand why Tae-jun would make such a choice, but Tae-jun knows that someone like Johan will never understand the value of true friendship. He looks at him coldly and says, "You're nothing more than a child." Furious, Johan leaves and calls the prison warden. He orders him to deal with Tae-jun the moment he returns to prison. Meanwhile, Sik returns home and reunites with Yoonbi. This time, Yoonbi stops hiding her emotions. She hugs her father tightly and cries. She finally admits how afraid she really was. The next day, Yang goes to the police station to complete Tae-jun's transfer. He then escorts him toward the police vehicle. During the journey, Yang cannot stop wondering why Tae-jun gave him the items from the storage locker. Tae-jun answers, "Those things are the key to proving the truth, and you were the only person in the prison I believed I could trust." Hearing this, Yang becomes even more certain that Tae-jun confessed only to protect Sik. During a stop on the road, another guard leaves the vehicle to use the restroom. Taking advantage of the moment, Yang drives away with Tae-jun. He takes the vehicle to a remote location, unlocks Tae-jun's handcuffs, and tells him that another van is waiting ahead. It turns out Yang already studied the files from the locker. He discovered how criminals had manipulated evidence and framed Tae-jun. The previous night, he also overheard the conversation between the warden and Johan. That was when he finally became certain that Tae-jun was innocent. Yang could no longer ignore the truth. The only thing he could do was give Tae-jun a chance to escape. Soon, Tae-jun reaches the waiting van. Inside, he finds Sik and Yoonbi. The three of them travel to an abandoned greenhouse and use it as a temporary hideout. There, Tae-jun learns that Johan is preparing to hold a public sculpture auction. Johan is a famous artist who regularly hosts auctions under secret identities. According to Dae Kang's earlier confession, every murder connected to this case happens within 10 days of one of Johan's auctions. thousands. And every time, the person blamed for the crime is caught within a week. Taejun realizes that these sculptures are actually payments for covering up murder cases, and the people used as models are usually the scapegoats. One of the statues even resembles Taejun himself. The sculpture being auctioned is Johan's 100th creation. The nanny decides to purchase it as a personal keepsake and pushes the bid all the way to 9.1 billion. However, a mysterious bidder suddenly raises the price to 10 billion. Johan seems to know exactly who the bidder is, and he is right. The bidder turns out to be Dae Kang. It is revealed that Dae Kang survived the attack that night, despite suffering severe injuries. After discovering that Johan was responsible for his father's death, he decides to join forces with Taejun to get revenge. Soon after, the police arrive and arrest Johan for murder. Even then, Taejun remains cautious. He knows Johan has powerful connections and could possibly walk free within a single day. The most important thing now is finding undeniable evidence that can completely expose him. That night, workers begin loading Johan's sculptures onto transport trucks. During the transfer, Taejun's friends create a distraction by pretending their car has broken down and blocking one of the trucks. Using the confusion, Taejun disguises himself as a worker and drives the truck directly to Johan's mansion. Meanwhile, a group of assassins attacks the police station. They kill the officers and break Johan out. Leading the operation is Deoksu, Taejun's old enemy from prison. After escaping, Johan immediately goes to the hospital and kills Dae Kang, allowing him to reunite with his father in death. At the same time, Johan's female assassin tracks down Sik. When Yoonbi rushes home, she finds her father collapsed on the floor and seriously injured. Even worse, she is no match for the assassin. She quickly runs outside and waits for the perfect opportunity. When the assassin follows her, Yoonbi attacks and stabs her in the chest. She immediately turns back to check on her father, but the assassin suddenly gets back up and attacks her from behind. Meanwhile, Taejun searches through Johan's workshop and discovers a suspicious hard drive. Suddenly, the alarm starts ringing. Forced to escape, Taejun reaches the exit and finds Deoksu waiting for him. Moments later, a group of armed men storms into the room. Using the tools and weapons around him, Taejun fights back and defeats them one by one. During the battle, one of the sculptures breaks apart, revealing a hidden murder weapon inside. Taejun grabs the blade and enters a deadly fight with Deoksu. The battle quickly turns against Deoksu. He loses control and is eventually stabbed badly. At that exact moment, Johan returns home. He remains completely calm despite seeing the destruction around him. Taejun warns him, "By tomorrow morning, the whole world will know the truth." But Johan only laughs. He claims the real evidence is hidden inside the handle of the katana. He also reveals that the hard drive Taejun took will automatically erase itself once opened. The truth is that Johan already expected Taejun to come. He even ordered the nanny to allow him inside. Just as Taejun prepares to attack again, the female assassin appears with Yoonbi as a hostage. She forces Taejun to drop his weapon. Then Johan comes up with a twisted idea. He tells Taejun that if he kills Deoksu, he will release Yoonbi. Taejun is trapped in an impossible choice. In the end, he drops the knife. Without hesitation, Johan finishes off Deoksu himself. He then declares that after killing Taejun, he will frame Yoonbi for everything. He even proudly claims that his 100th masterpiece was created using Yoonbi as inspiration. The situation quickly turns chaotic again. During the struggle, the assassin is knocked unconscious. Johan grabs the katana and charges toward Taejun. However, Taejun soon gains the advantage and brutally defeats him. Even while being beaten, Johan continues provoking him. He even plays the recording of Taejun's death to push Taejun over the edge. But Taejun refuses to kill him. Instead, he wants Johan to remain alive and face the punishment he deserves. After Taejun leaves, Johan's mansion catches fire. Johan dies inside the flames. Fortunately, Sik survives after receiving medical treatment. Taejun's case goes through a retrial, and he is finally declared innocent. 6 months later, Taejun achieves his dream of opening a flower shop with Yoonbi by his side. Yang also brings the plant he once helped Taejun care for as a gift for the grand opening. Life slowly returns to normal. For the first time, Taejun gets to live the peaceful life he always wanted. However, he does not realize that someone is still watching him from the shadows.